That's the important backdrop here. CCA is very simple. It allows, as Carol said, a breakaway from that procurement process of that utility after 100 years, and it allows the community to use, this, if you remember the 2001 H bond authority, the Proposition H, the solar bond authority, to finance a physical replacement of that system. That, in a sense, is what really makes it public power and what makes it important in the greenhouse gas discussion debate. The opportunity to use CCA to relocalize energy, electricity, and to green it physically in a meaningfully short period of time without causing an increase in the rates. Now, a major criterion in the program over the years, and Ross, I'm sure will get into this because it's so important for the political feasibility and the economic feasibility, is that rates need not rise in order to finance renewable energy. And CCA creates this opportunity. Why? I know that this contravenes what's considered accepted, the accepted canon in economics today in the free market fundamentalist environment that we live in that says that green power is more expensive than brown. And I'm going to shut up because I'm not Carol. But that prejudice comes from a supply-side oriented market fundamentalism in economics, in economic theory. Once you detach from that view and you're no longer concerned with protecting PG&E's long-term debt on their pipelines, PG&E's long-term debt on their fuel, their ownership rights in fuels, the ownership rights in power plants, and which CCA breaks you away from. You're no longer a part of that. You're no longer, this community is no longer constrained by the need to repay those debts, and therefore the need to continue to support those debts. Instead, the money that we all pay on our monthly bill can now be committed to a new local resource, which is community-owned or customer-owned, which is local, which you can see. That's really what it's about. It's about buying the green power, but it's also about owning it. It's also about bringing it home, relocalizing it, having it be community-owned, allowing community solar where customers, and we're hoping this will be part of the program, can own shares in photovoltaic arrays, even if they're renters, even if they don't have credit. This has been done in Sacramento with solar there, and the CCA are doing here. We had some discussion on the Board of Supervisors, and Ross and LAFCO has discussed this. Anyway, I'll let it go there, but that's really how I see the opportunity here, and no, it will not increase the rates.
And a very important question that's burning in our minds is the city running the program?
It's wonderful to be here with everybody tonight. Thank you to the Harvey Milk Club for sponsoring this, Tom, and thank you, everybody. Frankly, we're on the cusp of making some significant history here in San Francisco. We in Marin are, and that is why that you will see over the next several months a campaign unlike you've ever seen before, especially for those veteran activists and spectators of any kind of public power effort. This will be the pay-per-view event, I kid you not, of all the events that have taken place in San Francisco over the last century. We would have not been at this place tonight if it wasn't for the stewardship of then, of course, Carol Migden in the Assembly, and with the help of the policy architecture of Paul Fenn in the creation of Assembly Bill 117. And then before I was elected, of course, Supervisor Tom Amiano, and many of us up here, and I know from many of you there, who had been, I think, motivated, who had been inspired, who had been outraged, or who had been indoctrinated by the Bay Guardian, all have probably some role to some degree in us trying to do what really just comes to common sense. And that common sense is triggered by some mistakes that were activated nearly 6 decades ago. And that was our predecessors on the Board of Supervisors gave PG&E a franchise, monopoly, in perpetuity to control and own the system here in San Francisco until planet Earth basically dies with the end of time, whichever comes first. There is no other corporation that has that grip in San Francisco other than PG&E. And there's nothing we can do in order to reverse that particular grip unless it is then undone legally, which we have not heard of any effective strategy by the city attorney's office, or by charter amendment, which we've attempted several times and have lost due to the juggernaut of PG&E's resources by just creating a campaign of suffocation, smothering, disinformation, misrepresentations, and lie in order to retain their foothold and their profit hold here in San Francisco. A number of us have attempted through those charter amendment campaigns and other campaigns in order to insert our ability at the table of what we would see as an energy democracy, because in San Francisco we benefit from something that nobody else benefits from in California or even nationwide. We own our own resources. They were bequeathed to us through the Raker Act in the early 20th century. And I'm sure you know this because you have learned this through the Bay Guardian, who is appropriately obsessed by the very obvious that for a very visionary city and forward-thinking place like San Francisco, we couldn't be more in the dark ages because of our handcuffed relationship to PG&E, who insist we must do what they tell us to do. And so because of that particular constriction, and because of our inability to move in a way that we should, based on the indigenous assets that have been bequeathed to San Francisco, and because of past missteps policy-wise that have now completely made us inflexible, of the course of years, especially in the last 20, attempts have been made to try to alleviate and loosen that grip up so that we would at least have some say in our energy future. And all the motivations, I'm sure, of like Mike here, that whether it is in response to the fact that it's just plain wrong, egregiously and blatantly wrong, that we own a resource like a Hetchetchy, or that we know that fossil fuels, as it's becoming more of mainstream thinking, is not the way to rely upon in terms of our present and future energy economy, that we would like to then do something to diversify that relationship and alter it. We've sought that particular correction at the ballot. We've tried through City Hall. And then the one step that was left to us that was invented in Sacramento was the creation of community choice aggregation. This allowed for peaceful coexistence. And through peaceful coexistence, PG&E gets to remain here. But then we get to be elevated to the table where we now have a say in our energy future. That our own municipal governance then is empowered to allow its ratepayers and citizenry to also say that we want choice. That choice was blessed and enabled by state law through Sacramento and through the California Public Utilities Commission. It reinforced the principle that PG&E and all private utilities that are host to areas that decide to convert to become an energy aggregator, as we are striving to do now in San Francisco, must comply with the law. And it very specifically said that if they violate that law by doing what they're doing right now, by showering San Francisco with these very, very misleading, misrepresentative mailers, which is commonplace for PG&E, then they should be obviously penalized. We'll see if in the state level that they have the spine to do what we know is the right thing to do, but it is in the law, and if there's any literal interpretation of it, it's not about the spirit. They are in violation of it now.